Hey guys, if you were just watching on YouTube, obviously it didn't go very well. It was a dumpster fire. So that's why I'm here right now. I'm just going to go ahead and record this instead of going live because that's really my only option. Once I backed out of YouTube, I could not get back on, but I had no audio, so you guys couldn't hear me. Next time, I think I'll just go live on Facebook because I actually know how to do that. So that's where we are with that. I just wanted to explain to you what happened with the live. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started and start completely over. So I only had a couple viewers, and one was Dr. Denise and one was my sister, and there was one more person. I don't know who that was, but I'm sorry that that happened. But I'm still gonna go ahead and do this, even though it's not live. I'm going to do it so I can share it with you guys. Sorry about the confusion. Sorry about the mess. But sometimes that's just how life goes, right? So let's go ahead and get started. Hey there, and welcome to Momma Drama and Trauma. I'm your host, Jenny Kimmel, and tonight is very special. Thank you for being here watching. Sorry about the whole YouTube debacle, but you know what? That happens sometimes. I do truly appreciate all of you being a part of this space tonight and in the future. I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for listening to episode 1 of the podcast and for watching Thursday's video and for being here with me tonight. Your support means more than I can put into words. I'm just overwhelmed with the support I've received in the past week from you guys. And it's nice knowing we're not walking this road alone. If you have anything you want to share with me, please drop a comment. I will go back and check all the comments and answer any questions I can for you guys. Sorry that we couldn't do it live, but I will go back and look at everything and answer any questions. So now let me explain why I was planning on going live today and why August 9th holds a lot of weight for me. So 2 years ago today, on August 9th, 2023 at 8:37 a.m., my world was flipped upside down. That was the day I found out my husband of 22 years was having an affair. I remember every detail of that day. The shock, the numbness, the way time seemed to stop. It was the moment everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and my future suddenly shifted. I didn't know it then, but that day would mark the beginning of an entirely new chapter in my life. And that's why I wanted to show up for you guys today, because even though that day bent me, it definitely did not break me. It started a journey that led me here to this podcast, to this community, to this healing. Before we go any further, I want to let you guys know that I was not perfect in my marriage. There are so many things I could have done differently. And I'll be the first to admit that I wasn't always easy. I could be difficult at times too. My personality is what's called a C in the DISC personality model, which means I'm detail-oriented, I'm cautious, and I like things done a certain way. Now, that can be a strength, but it can also be very frustrating for the people around me, including my ex-husband and my kids. And I just want to be upfront that I had my own flaws too, and I wasn't perfect in our marriage by any means. I'm working on myself every day, and I'm learning new things about who I am, the good and the bad. I'm focused on becoming a better version of me because I know there's always room for growth, and I'm still healing every single day. So if you guys wouldn't mind just dropping a flower if you've ever felt like you lost yourself in a relationship, let me know in the comments by doing that. Let's talk about the hidden side of betrayal that nobody talks about. Here's what people don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart, it makes you question your worth and it makes you question your reality. I don't think people who have affairs realize just how deep that cut goes. It doesn't just hurt, it wrecks you from the inside out. Those first few months, my brain kept spinning with so many questions. Why wasn't I enough? What was wrong with me? What didn't I do right? I remember telling my husband so many times, I don't understand this. I was a good wife to you. And he agreed with me. Yes, I was a good wife to him. But that almost made it worse that he was agreeing because it left me wondering, then why? Why wasn't that enough for you to stay, to choose me, and to love me the way I loved you? That was the hardest battle, trying to hold on to my self-worth when it felt like it had just been shattered. If I could go back and tell myself something in those early days, it would be this. You are not crazy. You are worthy. This is about his choices, not your value. You deserve so much more than what he is giving you right now. Jenny, stop pouring yourself into someone who broke your heart and start pouring that energy into yourself and your healing. That's something I wish I'd known then, but it was so hard to see that through all the hurt. If you're comfortable, tell me what's one word that describes where you are in your journey right now. Drop it in the chat. I think my word would have been blindsided. Like, I never saw this coming. In our later conversations, my husband would say we'd been unhappy for years, but I never knew we were unhappy. And all of this information he was telling me was a complete shock to my system, and I couldn't figure it out. Why had I been so blind to see any of this if it was happening to me? Let's talk about the moment I realized I wasn't alone in this journey. The first time someone reached out to me saying this had happened to them too, I was floored. I couldn't believe how many people were going through this exact same heartbreak, and yet no one was talking about it out loud. I think the reason no one talks about it out loud is because we feel ashamed, like somehow their betrayal is a reflection of us, but it's not. We are enough, and we always were enough. Once I started researching, my social media feeds were flooded with videos, articles, and posts about betrayal. It shocked me to see how common this really is. And it was even more shocking how similar all the stories are. Next up, I will share what cheaters say straight from the script. So somewhere in all this research, I caught wind of a book called Leave a Cheater, Gain a Life, and I decided to read it. And I highly recommend it if you're going through this same exact situation. Chapter 5 of this book lists the classic lines cheaters use, and I swear it felt like my husband had taken notes straight from this book. Let me share a few of the classic lines. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Yep, my husband said this to me word for word. Next up, I didn't mean to hurt you. My husband said that over and over again. But you know, cheating isn't an accident. It does take planning. What they really mean when they say this is, I didn't mean for you to find out. The next one up, you weren't meeting my needs, or I haven't been happy for a long time. Yep, he said those words to me too, and those words cut deep. My husband told me I should have known he wasn't happy, even though he never once said it out loud to me. Yes, marriages have seasons, some more difficult than others, but I had no idea he was feeling this way so strongly and enough to go outside of our marriage without even talking to me first. Another one, straight from the playbook, I need time to decide. In my case, this meant he wanted space to think. That's why he left our home, but really he was just spending time with her. And the one that stings the most, the one that I'll never forget hearing him say, is the kids are resilient. They'll be fine. My kids were 14 and 15 at a time. Already a tough age, right? And this situation added a whole new layer of confusion and pain. It made them question things they never should have had to question. Yes, I agree, kids are resilient, but that doesn't mean they don't hurt, and that doesn't mean they don't walk away untouched. Reading these words and knowing that most cheaters say these exact same thing made me realize this is a script. It's not about us. It's a pattern of behavior. And knowing that was a step towards taking back my power. Let's move on to the day I realized my strength. There were so many days that first year that felt so hard, but one day stands out. What would have been our 22nd wedding anniversary, 22 years on the 22nd. We got married just 11 days after the 9/11 attacks. The world felt broken back then, shaken, uncertain, but we moved forward anyway. There was something meaningful in that timing, something resilient about starting a life together in the middle of collective grief and chaos. So to be standing there just a month after discovering the affair, feeling like my world had crumbled, it was almost too much for me to bear. That day hurt so badly, but I got through it. I woke up, I faced the day, and I made it to bedtime, still standing. That moment whispered to me, "You're stronger than you think. You will survive this." Okay, I want to hear from you guys now. What's one day you surprised yourself with your own resilience? Drop it in the comments or just put a heart if you're not quite ready to share your journey yet. You know, if I had to pick the hardest part of this entire process, it wouldn't be forgiving him. It wouldn't be even letting go of all the anger that I held. For me, the hardest thing was learning how to trust myself again. Because here's the truth. I didn't see any of this coming, not a single red flag big enough to make me think my marriage was ending, or that my husband was unhappy, or that he was cheating. We had our problems like any couple, sure, but nothing that screamed, "This is what's about to happen to you." And when it all came out, it completely shattered my sense of judgment. I remember sitting there thinking, how can I trust myself to see the truth again? How can I believe my own instincts when I missed something this big? If I couldn't see it coming with someone I loved for 22 years, how can I trust myself to know what's real in the future? That kind of wound cuts deep because it's not just about trusting other people again. It's about rebuilding trust in your own heart, your own instincts, and your own ability to protect yourself. And that's a slow, messy process. But over time, I learned his betrayal wasn't about me not being enough. It was about his choices. It took me a long time to understand that what happened wasn't a reflection of me not paying attention or me not being enough. It was a reflection of his choices, and over time, little by little, I've learned to listen to myself again, to know that I can trust my own judgment and that betrayal says more about the betrayer than the person betrayed. Let's do a quick poll. Which part of the healing process has felt the hardest for you? Trusting yourself again, trusting others, or letting go of your anger? Go ahead and drop your answer in the comments. In this process, there were so many lessons learned, but the most important for me was watch your words. If there's one thing I wish someone had told me, it's this. Be careful with your words because the little ears are always listening. My ex and his affair partner are still together. In those early months, I was in so much pain and I said terrible things about my husband's affair partner to my kids. I blamed her, and looking back, I now realize that blame didn't belong to her. Was what she did right or okay? Absolutely not. But she had no commitment to me. She owed me nothing. My husband did. He was the one who made vows to me. He was the one who should have come to me before ever going to someone else. He should have been the one protecting our family. There are things I said out of hurt that I wish I wouldn't have said and I wish I could take back, but pain makes you say things you really don't mean. And as I've healed, I've learned this. You cannot control what others do, but you can control how you show up for your kids, even in your worst heartbreak. This journey teaches you lessons you wish you never had to learn. And for me, one of the hardest lessons was that even in betrayal, words matter. And your kids are always listening, even when you think they're not. Moving on to healing for my kids and myself. One thing I knew early on is that I wanted to heal. I didn't want to be stuck in bitterness, walking around angry and letting that spill onto my kids. I didn't want to be the mom who was hateful or resentful every day because of what happened to me. I knew I couldn't change what was done to me, but I could choose how I showed up for my kids. And I wanted to show up as a mom who wasn't carrying that poison in my heart anymore. I wanted to forgive, not because what he did was okay, not because I'd ever forget what he had done to me, but because forgiveness was the only way I could free myself and my kids from living in the shadow of his choices. I never wanted my boys to feel like they were in the middle of a war that wasn't theirs to fight. They didn't ask for this. It wasn't their burden to carry. So I made a decision. I would do whatever it took to heal myself, to find peace, and to give them the best version of me that I could. Even while I was just trying to find my way through this mess and figure out how to put my life back together. Let's talk about self-worth and the hard lessons. If I had to sum up what I've learned about self-worth the hard way, it's this. Someone else's betrayal doesn't define me. My worth was never tied to someone else's ability or failure to love me the right way. I gave 22 years of my life, my heart, and my everything to someone who chose betrayal. But not because I wasn't enough. I was enough before it happened. I was enough during it, and I'm more than enough now. His choices weren't about my value. They were about his inability to respect the family we built. For months after it happened, I carried the weight of his choices on my shoulders. I questioned myself constantly. Why wasn't I enough? Why didn't I see this coming? How could I have been so blind? I let his betrayal convince me that somehow my value as a woman, as a wife, and as a person had been reduced to nothing. But the hard truth I had to claw my way to is this. My worth was never up for debate. His betrayal didn't make me less valuable. This journey has taught me that I can still stand alone and still be whole. That I don't need someone else's approval or presence to know I am enough. And someone else's lies and failures say everything about them and nothing about me. Rebuilding self-worth after betrayal is hard, but it's also possible. And it starts with knowing your worth was never up for debate in the first place. His choices were about him, not me, and not you. You're welcome to share your story if you feel comfortable. You can share your story with just me, or you can share it with all of us. I want this to be a safe place for all of us to connect. And I also want to remind you that wherever you are on your journey, you are not alone. In closing this evening, I want to say thank you so much for being here tonight, for listening, and for all of your support. I never imagined I'd be sharing my story like this, but I'm so glad I am. And I'm truly thankful for where I am in my life right now. As hard as it's been, I wouldn't change any of it because it's led me here. And I believe I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. This space isn't just about me telling my story. It's about all of us healing together. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen. And hit subscribe here on YouTube so you don't miss next week's episode, The Week After the Affair, How I Survived Shock, Shame, and Silence. And as always, guys, Remember, you are strong, you are worthy, and your story matters. Until next time, take care of you.